am doing my presentation on the myth of Persephone and Demeter, what it meant to ancient women and what modern women could take from it today. The Homeric Hymns were a series of hymns that were most likely written by a variety of authors. However, due to the similarity of the styles between works like the Iliad, written by Homer, and the hymns themselves, they were originally ascribed to him. The second hymn, Hymn 2 to Demeter, was about the relationship between Demeter, Persephone, and Hades. In this myth, Persephone is taken to the underworld, the ground is opened up underneath her, and she is kidnapped by Hades. The reason for this is because Zeus offered her to Hades in marriage without her or her mother's consent. This was something that happened frequently in ancient Greece. In this myth, Demeter spends a year grieving and looking for her daughter. The reason that she knows is not because Zeus told her, but rather she heard her daughter scream. This myth most likely would have been very important to women and people in general in ancient Greece. Modern times has a lot of emphasis on ancient Greek culture and mythology. This makes sense as a lot of ancient Greece's culture is very intertwined in our own. It's in the politics, it's in the art, it's in everywhere, it's in day-to-day life. You can find a little bit of ancient Greece anywhere if you looked hard enough. Modern looks at this myth has put a far more emphasis on the romantic relationship between Hades and Persephone rather than the familial relationship between Demeter and Persephone. This is most likely because society tends to put a greater emphasis on romantic relationships rather than familial relationships. Demeter is viewed as a bitter mother, and she is viewed as cruel and overbearing. Persephone is viewed as naive, but she's ultimately saved by her now husband, Hades. However, this myth most likely meant a lot more to ancient women. Ancient Greek society was heavily patriarchal. Women had very little control over their own lives or the lives of their daughters. The practice of giving your child up into marriage to a strange man would have been one that was incredibly common, and this myth would have been one that all women in ancient Greece would have been able to see themselves in and their life experiences in. The mothers would have seen themselves in Demeter's grief and her looking for her daughter, and the daughters would have seen the fear of Persephone and felt that themselves. The experience between Demeter and Persephone, a mother's grief over losing her child and the daughter's fear over losing her mother, would have been one that was incredibly important to them. It would have been cathartic. It would have been a reflection of their own lives. The focus on the story is not on the marriage. The focus on the story is the relationship between the mother and the daughter and the ending, which at the end, Demeter and Persephone are reunited, which would have been miraculous for women at that time. After marriage, they most likely would have never seen their daughter again. Modern women could take a lot from this. Stories and television today are not that much more different than myths were back then. The mothers are viewed as overbearing, and they're displayed as having strained relationships, if any relationship at all, with their daughters, while their daughters are rebellious and they hate their mothers in the stories. That is a frequent story that played not only in television today, but in mythology back then. While not every relationship is going to be perfect, it's not a relationship that should be so undervalued and so dismissed. Relationships between women, whether it's sisters, mother or daughter, or best friends, is something that is important and something that should be valued. Relationships between father and son and brother also should be valued. The emphasis that society places on romantic relationships is not one that is good or healthy, because the relationship between family is something that can be a core part of people's lives. Dismissing it like that should not be the standard. And myths like this show that. Myths like this remind people that there is value in their relationships with their family, with their mothers, with their sons, with their fathers. Stories like this show that it doesn't have to be the norm where the mother and the daughter part ways, whether through fathers giving up their daughters or through daughters being made to feel like they have to stray from their mother, they have to find a husband, they have to find a boyfriend. Myths like this are an incredible vessel for stories like this. These are my sources and further reading. I highly recommend Demeter's Daughters, How the Myth of the Captured Bride Helped Spur Feminine Consciousness in Ancient Greece. It's a thesis on this story as well as the ancient festival of Thesmophoria, which celebrated Demeter and this myth. I also used a Britannica article on the Homeric Hymns and the Homeric Hymns published by Oxford University. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.